Time for the only radio show of its kind. Auctioneers of antiques, collectors of cool, veterans of vintage. It's the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer. For the next hour, enjoy great information about buying and selling antiques and collectibles, and some interesting stories. Now, the Donnelly Auctions Hour.
Hey, welcome back to the Donnelly Auctions Hour here on AM 560. It's Mike and Randy Donnelly here with you every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. We run the Donnelly Auctions out in Union, Illinois. And here with my brother Randy. Hey, Randy.
Hey, Mike. Wow, man, what a great week we've had again. Just thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the phone calls and all the leads and everything. The merchandise that has walked in the door this week. Wow. Just yesterday, we picked up another load of cars. What was there? 7 cars and 2 boats.
Yeah, the cars were pretty cool, too.
I really like that 41 Plymouth convertible. I mean, to me, that's
a cutie, yeah.
That really is, yeah. But all kinds of goodies. So that's all for the August auction coming up. But, Mike, tell everybody out there what we do have coming up in auctions.
Okay, June 27th, which is on a Thursday, it's a weekday auction. It's online only. It's our vintage watch fobs and display case auction. The watch fobs, as we've been talking about, were little advertising pieces that attach to your pocket watch and hung out of your pocket to make it easier to pull your watch out. If you go up online, everything's online right now at DonnellyAuctions.com, so you can go up there and see what we're talking about. And I think Ryan yesterday posted a cute little video of
good.
Other uses for watch fobs. So,
well, the watch fob collection is one of our online only auctions. So it's not one you can come live to, but you can come visit us anytime, really.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is that these are reasonable. I mean, you can buy a really nice little piece of advertising for $10 or $15. I mean, we generally don't handle this low price of merchandise, but this was
I'm glad you said low price, because it's not, I keep using the expression low end, and that is so wrong, because it's not low end merchandise, it's inexpensive.
That's correct. And for people just wanting to start collecting something, little piece of advertising or something, and these watch fobs they can attach to their key fob. I mean, if you're in construction and you're driving a tractor or a bulldozer, we have advertising fobs for that you can put on your tractor key.
Yep. So, okay, what's next after that? We've got July.
Yeah, then we roll July 13th and 14th, which is a Saturday and Sunday. That's one of our big gun and military auctions. Still time to get in on that. As a matter of fact, there's quite a few collections. In fact, right after the show today, I'm leaving for northern Wisconsin to go pick up another collection. So.
And we've got a big military collection coming in also that's going to be delivered, and you're going to go pick one up.
Yeah, cool. So still time to get your guns and military. What walked in the other day, and we haven't talked about too much, but they are out there, are samurai swords, what are referred to as samurai swords. A lot of people have them. They were brought back after World War II. The veterans were bringing them back. So I'd like to touch on that because, a lot of people don't realize some of these have unbelievable value to them.
Right. Samurai swords run the gamut. I mean, if you had what we would refer to as an absolute junk samurai sword today, you're still probably talking $500, $600, $700. I mean, there's really no $200 swords in that category, but they run into the thousands. They can run into the tens of thousands. And samurai swords, again, like a lottery ticket, can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, a little quick history. The samurai, we refer to them as samurai swords, but they were swords used by the samurai, which were a hereditary military nobility of Japan. That ran from the late 12th century to like the late 1870s. And the swords they carried became synonymous with the samurai. But there was actually the swords themselves, they were an art form that dated from probably around 900 A.D. To present, and they're characterized by their design. So tell them how they would find out, or how we would tell them what a good samurai sword would be. It's in the design form itself.
Oh, well, there's so many ways to tell. I mean, just by looking at the temper line, for example.
And the temper line would be like that little
blade.
wavy line, looks like a little wave on the edge of the blade.
That is correct. And of course, that you have to open up the handle, read the handles. There's Japanese writing kanjis on the handle. There's just so many things that go into bracing a sword. You really do need an expert. I, of course, myself would not be able to do that. That's why we hire experts at Donnelly Auctions. I've been a military collector my whole life, and I personally am not qualified to read a sword. And but we again hire very qualified people to do this for you, and it has to be done, folks. You cannot be selling your swords at garage sales. I warn everybody all the time. This is
no, or if you see an ad somewhere, buying things, have it checked out first, have an expert check it out, because as Randy said, it is definitely a lottery ticket. And we also warn people, too, do not try and take the handle apart by yourself. You have to know what you're doing to do this.
Oh, you can really destroy a sword
Do
fast.
not clean the blade. Even if it's rusty, leave it as it is. Do not touch it.
Right.
And if the scabbard looks like it's falling apart and such, don't worry about that. That has nothing to do with the blade itself. And be careful. They are razor sharp, so be careful of that.
And again, so Mike is saying right now we're on the hunt for samurai swords. Well, all war souvenirs, but samurai swords right now is something we're pushing this week. Call us at 815. 923-7000 and talk to one of our people at Donnelly Auctions, or ask for Mike or Randy, and we're always happy to talk to you. Or go to DonnellyAuctions.com. That will give you all the directions and the next steps for how to send us photos and so on and so forth. But in July, we've got more.
Oh, yeah. There's we're always looking for military helmets. There's a lot of money in helmets, especially the American helmets and such.
Absolutely. Well, all military relics, But in July, I wanted to point out that there's more auctions in July, but besides guns and military, we've got the big July 19th Mancuso auction coming up. And today, in our next segment, we're going to have special guest Rick Mancuso. Mm-hmm. So you definitely want to hang around for that. And who else do we have today?
We have Wayne Lensing from Lensing's Historic Auto Museum.
My goodness.
He's going to be talking about the
what an interesting day. We've got some very great guests for you. But we've still got more time in this segment. So besides guns and military, we are still looking for, we've got this Ferrari auction coming up. And my goodness, anything automotive, we need gas pumps. We need a collection of gas pumps. Whether you have one or a dozen of them, we need those.
And they don't have to be in good condition. I mean, people want them as found condition. If they're sitting outside a barn or something and they're all rusty, perfect. That's just how they want them.
And, we're kind of that niche auction house. There's auction houses that would only want your cars if they're 100-point restored cars and everything else. Whereas, we're still doing all kinds. We're doing unrestored. We're doing barn finds, which is, we've got a load of those for August coming up. But we did pick up 13 of them from Diane in Wakanda. Mm-hmm. And then we picked up 7 more yesterday. We've got a lot of cars coming in.
What were those motorcycles? I thought there was that one really neat motorbike. What was that?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's an old Monarch motorbike. And we've got a Cushman motor scooter. We've got a Honda trike, all kinds of good stuff. Good stuff for August.
Yeah, so if you got motorcycles, too, any condition, call us.
Yep. So what else, Mike? We've got all kinds of things. You wanted to talk a little bit today, a little later. You wanted to discuss gangster memorabilia. I saw that on your notes.
It's out there, so, yeah, we want to if you're from the suburbs of Chicago, I mean, we all grew up hearing all the stories about the gangsters. Now, that stuff's around. I mean, whether it be guns or photographs. I mean,
brass knuckles. I mean, bulletproof vests, and we want the Law and Order era too. We want the old police Bobby style hi-hats, and we want badges and anything. I mean, it all sells so well today.
Yeah, any Prohibition material, old whiskey bottles from the Prohibition era.
Even big full-size bars and back bars. I mean, we just pulled a bar out of Chicago a few weeks ago.
Yeah. If you had a headline from the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, it would be worth quite a bit. So.
Yep. So all kinds of stuff you need to look for and contact us. Donley's at DonleyAuctions.com, and that's Donley, DONLEY, auctions with an S.
And you're listening to AM Donnelly Auction Hours here on AM 560. And with Mike and Randy Donnelly, we got some guests coming up, so stay tuned. We will be right back right after the break.
They've been called auctioneers of antiques, collectors of cool, even veterans of vintage. And they can introduce themselves. Thanks for listening. This is the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back to the Donnelly Auction Hour. I'm Mike Donnelly here with my brother Randy, and we're from Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois. And joining us right now is our special guest, Mr. Rick Mancuso from Lake Forest Ferrari. He's going to be telling us about our upcoming auction, which is going to be on July 19th, a Friday night.
Hey, Rick, how you doing there?
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, great. I am so looking forward to this, what we refer to as the Mancuso collection. There's so much great memorabilia in this auction, all kinds of signs and memorabilia that you've collected up over the years. And one thing that I find fascinating is the variety of different cars. I mean, they're the Aston Martin and Lamborghini and all these. Rick, what kind of cars are you selling right now at the dealership? Obviously, we all know you're synonymous with Ferrari, but do you sell other brands there?
We have a relationship with Koenigsegg and Pininfarina, and just recently Pagani.
Wow.
So basically, we start as a service facility for them because there's no representation for those dealerships in this area. And it's developed into the opportunity to, if a customer wanted to place an order for one of those cars, which is a long process, they could come to us for that and we can help expedite it.
I see. Well, let me ask you this. Now, years ago, your family started out with a Chevy dealership. What year was that?
1953.
Wow. Now, okay, so you start with a Chevy dealership. How does one make the transition from Chevys to Ferraris? I mean, it just seems to be a million miles apart. Or am I wrong?
No, I get asked that question a lot, and my standard answer for that is that's about a 3-cocktail story at a dinner. And it takes a couple of hours.
That's great.
The Cliff Note version is my father was a Chevrolet dealer from 1953 until 1994. I worked with him and my brother. My brother was there at the dealership as well. And excuse me, they had their own dealerships out in Barrington for a long time. I worked with them for about 7 or 8 years, and I learned a lot. I also learned that I wasn't particularly enthralled with the volume concept when we were with Chevrolet, but that I really loved the sports car concept and embraced Corvette. Mm-hmm. And came to a point where I was working with my dad, and I think we were very similar. So it was very difficult to work together. Mm-hmm. And I came to the conclusion that it was his franchise and his working capital and his real estate. This guy isn't going anywhere. And if I don't get along with his changes, I need to move along. So I resigned in 79 and then made applications to different franchises, was turned down by everybody, of course, because it was 79. And then ultimately a year or two later, after working in the used car business and so forth and being a salesman at other dealerships, Ferrari gave me an authorization letter called a letter of intent. I was immediately sued by other dealers to prevent me from opening, which delayed everything another 21 months. And then basically we prevailed legally. And then in February of 1982, I signed the Ferrari contract. It was given entry into the market at that point, which prime was 21.5%. The banks were lending at 2 over. The environment was challenging, to say the least, when interest rates were 23.5%.
Wow.
And that's when we kicked off.
Wow. Wow.
And that's the short version. I'm sorry if I rambled on a bit there.
Well, now, here's something interesting is that in your auction, in the Mancuso auction that we're doing July 19th, actually some of the best items are Chevy. I mean, you've got some extremely rare Corvettes that we're selling in July. Can you tell me one I'm really particularly interested in? And ladies and gentlemen, by the way, we do have a full color catalog available. All you have to do is request it. Go to DonleyAuctions.com and request a catalog, a full color catalog, and we'll send it out to you. But Rick, this 1971, can you tell me a little bit about that? It just seems to be so rare.
It's extremely rare. It's the first year that I was working with my father. A friend of mine who lived in Wilmette named Richard Messerschmidt walks in the door, and he was a racer with SCCA, an A-production Corvette racer. And I had always envied those guys because they were out having lots of fun with Corvettes on the racetracks. And I thought, I'd like to do that someday. But anyway, Richard walks in and says, I'd like to order one of the 71 ZR1 Corvettes. And I looked it up. And I said, well, they don't really have those available. It's on stop. You can't order them. He kind of smiled and looked at me and said, well, there's on the bottom of your order, there's a section for special instructions. Right, attention, Joe Pike. This vehicle is for Richard Messerschmidt, and they'll build the car for me. And I thought, well, this guy's a real joker, okay? He's really inflating his position with Chevrolet. But let's go along with it. So I did. And in those days when we ordered a car, we actually filled out a 3-part carbon-lettered, carbon-papered order form and put it in the mailbox and mailed it to Detroit. Think about that.
That is wild, yeah.
So I did that. And then about 6 weeks later, I forgot about it completely. A transporter pulls up, and there's a Steel Cities gray Corvette on the top of it, exactly as he ordered.
Incredible.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah. But the story gets even more interesting, at least from my standpoint, it does, because when the car comes in, he says, don't touch it. I'm going to spend my time detailing it. Don't even bother doing anything. I'll take it just the way it is. So he had it 3 or 4 years. He comes back to me 3 or 4 years later and says he's ready to sell it. List price on that car was $7,000 or $8,000. And he offered to sell it to me for $5,000, and I bought it, and I had it for a couple of years.
Wow.
Sold it for $7,000 and thought I was a real genius, and changed the color of the car, did everything by today's standards that would ruin the value of it. And then lost track of it for probably 45 years.
Uh-huh.
And it showed up on Haggerty several years ago. They wanted several $100,000 for it. It had been all restored back to original by a Chevrolet dealer on the East Coast who had it for 25 years. What made it unusual is Chevrolet was involved in the beginning of IMSA racing. IMSA is the International Motorsports Association. And a guy named John Betcher who had been with Chevrolet. He had been with Sports Car Club of America. Kind of broke off in his own wing and opened this new road racing season. And it was attracting all the European manufacturers. Porsche, BMW got involved. And Chevrolet wanted to be represented with Corvettes, so they started making some very special Corvettes. And the ones with the big blocks were called L88 Corvettes. They had special chassis. And the ones with small blocks were called ZR1. So this street car had special brakes, special transmission, driveline, wheels, shocks, springs. It was as close to a race car as you could get. And that's what made it rare. I happened to write a letter to Chevrolet to Joe Pike later on because I was actually racing him 3 or 4 years later in other Corvettes and asked him if they had any information about the history of the car and how many they made. And he wrote a letter back and said, well, we don't really keep exact records, but I think we made 8 and we only made 1 Roadster, which is the car that you have.
Wow.
So I have a letter.
Wow.
It's a Chevrolet Motor Division on the top of it. And then it's gone on to be very well documented in Corvette circles. So
it's just so rare, and I'm just so excited that you're offering this up, but you've got two other Corvettes. I mean that 1957 fuel injected Corvette, Rick. Wow,
that's a beauty. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's a real unusual Corvette. It's been a race car for 50 or 60 years, since 1959. It's raced all over. It's won at Monterey. It's won the concours at Monterey. It's won a race at Monterey. It's competed in the Colorado Grand because it's technically street legal.
Incredible.
In the very loosest sense of the word. And it's rare.
Oh, it's a work of art.
Rare Corvette, yeah.
And it's such a rare opportunity. You know, people don't realize that once these cars get bought up, they're gone for another 20 years. They can't be reacquired. Most people that buy these cars, they buy them to put them in their collections and man caves, and they don't come back on the market for probably another 20 years. So the opportunity right now at this auction to pick up some of these things is just unbelievable. Now, hey, Rick, can you come back with us after the break and talk just a little bit more? Wonderful. Okay.
All right, we will be back in just a few seconds here. You're listening a few minutes. You're listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour here on AM 560 with Mike and Randy Donnelly and our special guest Rick Mancuso. We'll be right back right after the break.
You're listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Mike Donnelly and Randy Donnelly here, back with the Donnelly Auctions Hour here on AM 560, The Answer. And we have our special guest with us right now, Rick Mancuso, and we're talking about our upcoming auction on July 19th. Welcome back, Rick.
Hey, Hi. Rick. Yeah, again, thanks so much for hanging in there, Rick, because, we touched on the cars a little bit. And ladies and gentlemen, you can go to Donnelly Auctions right now and see the full catalog online, and all these items we're talking about have photos and descriptions and everything else. But Rick, one of the things that we love about this auction is this isn't just memorabilia. This is memorabilia that's unobtainable anywhere simply because it wasn't manufactured as gift shop type stuff or anything. I mean, this is all the real deal that literally came off of your building, like the Ferrari signs, for example. I mean, these are signs that were actually hanging at Mancuso.
That's right. They were never for sale. None of these items were ever available to the public. They were items only available to factory-authorized dealers who would use it in promotion of their specific brands that they were representing. So to have things like this, I've enjoyed just having them, and I have a lot of it, and it's fun to think about sharing it, but it's perfect and like brand new, a lot of the stuff.
You know, it really takes a special mindset. It takes the right person to have saved this and understood what it was. You know, so many people over the years, as things changed, they simply discard items, and it's such a shame because it is history. And you preserved all these items and have saved them and collected them, and now offering them up to the next generation, so to speak, of collectors for their man caves.
Oh, man, yeah. Oh. If you want the ultimate man cave, you got to look through go to DonnellyAuctions.com and see some of the stuff that's up there. It's just mind-blowing.
It's just absolutely incredible. And Rick, as you just said, this was only available to dealers to begin with.
It is really fun for me because I'm such a gearhead that I would look at some of these things and people would say, well, should we toss this? You know, cylinder heads, broken motors, things like that. I look at this and I see this beautiful work of art when I'm looking at the motor or a cylinder head or an intake manifold embossed with an Aston Martin logo or Ferrari logo. And I'm going, I would never throw that out. Clean it up, put it back together. Let's make a stand for it. It was fun. I just enjoyed it. It's been great fun.
You know, Rick, one of my favorite items here, and again, it would take a person like you to understand this, to save something like this Lot 34, which is a vintage burnt Ferrari engine hood. It was in a fire, and it just
Right.
Can you tell me where that came from and what that's all about? I mean, it's gorgeous.
It was one of our early Ferrari Challenge cars from a 355. I don't remember what triggered the fire, but it was a interesting rear deck hood from this car, and something happened. It was probably to do with catalytic mufflers, because when we started the Challenge series in the early years, we actually had catalytic mufflers still on the cars because they were all street-prepared cars at that point. And then everyone was going to toss it. And I'm like, I don't think we should toss it. There's a story with it. And we should save it. And I can't hung on to it. You know, one of the other things I've got a wing off one of the early Greenwood Corvettes that they were testing for different cars when they were running at high-speed tracks. And people would look at that and say, that's useless. We should toss it. I wouldn't toss it. There's a real story there. Here's what this was all about. And the more I talked about it, the more valuable it became to me mentally.
Oh, sure.
So I can't remember much that I've actually tossed.
It's truly incredible, folks. You have to look at this catalog and the luggage sets that it never occurred to me ever. You know, again, I'm still a Chevy driver. So I never knew that car companies actually made matching luggage for vehicles, and you have Ferrari, Aston Martin. I mean, all these unbelievable, brand new, never used luggage sets that go for cars. Wow, where would you ever find this?
It's display light. It's so nice. You couldn't possibly check it on a commercial airline flight.
No, that's for sure.
It would be simply destroyed.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like brand new, and a lot of it's model specific, but it's nothing. It's so nice. I mean, people would say to me, "Are you going to use any of that?" Like I said, it's too nice.
No, it would get stolen. It would, they would never make it.
Yeah, right.
Keep it the way it is. Put it in the corner. Put it on a shelf. It's just fun to look at it.
And these engines, you mentioned making cocktail tables out of them and everything with a glass top. I mean, all works of art. And speaking of works of art, there's actually art that hung on the walls. But we are unfortunately running out of time. Rick, anything else you want to add to our talk right now, because we've only got 30 seconds.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. And
that it is.
This isn't all of it. We'll come back down the road. You and I and Mike will do something a year from now, because this is the initial rollout of these.
Sounds great.
Well, we'll definitely have you back before the auction again.
Definitely.
That's great.
Rick, thank you so much for being on today.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Well, you're listening to Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560 with Mike and Randy Donnelly. We'll be right back right after the break.
And now, more of the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back. I'm Mike Donnelly here with Randy Donnelly, owners of Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois. And joining us now is Wayne Lensing, owner of Lensing's Historic Auto Museum out in that's Rockton, Illinois, Wayne?
It's Roscoe, Illinois.
Roscoe,
that's
Illinois.
A suburb. Yeah, that's a suburb of Rockford.
Unbelievable auto attraction.
It is absolutely fabulous, or I absolutely love your museum, and I just want to tell everybody, if you have not been out there, it's a must-see.
Yeah,
it's a must-do this summer. You have to put it on your summer list.
And it's not just cars. The cars is just a small part of it. I mean, the Old West collection is just better than anything, I guarantee you, anything you will find anywhere else in the United States. It is unbelievable there.
Wayne, how long have you been a collector?
Hey, I really thank you for those good words, but I've been a collector since in the 90s, and my museum opened up in 01, and what I do is I like to collect the special stuff that you just don't see on the street.
So if you don't know about Wayne Lensing, Wayne owns Left-Hander Chassis. And Wayne, tell us just a little bit about Left-Hander. That you actually manufacture racing chassis for automobiles, right?
Yes, I do. I started racing back in the 70s, and we did quite well. And next thing I knew, a lot of people were wanting to buy cars from me. So we started producing cars, and then I got into selling the parts. And then as e-commerce come alive, we moved up the ladder, and now we're selling e-commerce a lot across the United States and around the world.
Wow. Well, one of the highlights of our July 19th auction is the Richard Petty 1960 Plymouth Fury that you've had, and how did you ever acquire that car?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say something. Richard Petty's car, race car. I was into racing. I went over to Auburn, Indiana. Cruise was a big auction every fall. Well, I happened to go over there, and they had that car on auction over there. And, boy, it was a must-have thing, so I worked really hard to figure out a way to afford to buy it, but we did buy it, and the car is just so special. There's a lot of famous race drivers out there that had race cars, but Richard Petty was known as the king. He won 200 victories. Nobody else has reached that milestone. And this car is so special. Why? Because it won his second, third, and fourth victory. The first car does not exist anymore, so this car stands out pretty strong in how should I say it, the milestones.
Well, the racing world, actually, this car is legendary. I mean, people have all known it exists. It's beautifully restored. And what a piece of racing history. And I say this all the time, Wayne, is once an item like this gets collected up again, once it gets put into the next man cave or the next collection, in all likelihood, we're not going to see this available again probably for another 20, 30, or 40 years. Once a car like this gets into somebody's collection, they just don't resell it, and if it gets into the right museum, it'll never be available again. So this is an opportunity for anybody out there who collects racing memorabilia and really wants to add to their man cave. This is the car.
Doesn't get any better than this. Nope.
So,
well, I've got to say, I agree with that. I had the car for 25 years now.
Well,
and
there
when you
go.
said 25 years, well, that's kind of like, now it's going to go into somebody else's collection, and it might, if it goes into a 501, it might never, ever go to the public again, unless if it goes out to somebody like me, that private owned it.
Sure.
And as an investment, always buy the best of the best, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what you'd be buying here. It doesn't get any better as far as racing memorabilia, so it's just a great investment also.
Well, we thank you again so much for the opportunity with this automobile, but we just want to touch on your museum a little more. Mike, you were talking about the Old West section of his museum the other day.
Oh yeah, the memorabilia you have there, you don't see it anywhere else. I mean, you have built a collection there that is just world class. It really is, Wayne, and the Old West is just a part of it. You have your automobiles, you have the Old West section, you have one of the best Kennedy collection
anywhere.
Yeah. You're building your gangster memorabilia collection and such like that. I mean, it's just fabulous. And there's even stuff there for the ladies. I mean, most of what we enjoy as men is stuff like you like too, Wayne. But the gown collection, Jackie Onassis's gown collection, the Oleg Cassini gowns, unbelievable. I mean, just where else would you ever see that?
Yeah,
you wouldn't see this stuff at the Smithsonian even.
So Wayne, tell us, are you open every day there?
We're open every day but Monday, and it's 10 to 5. And, yes, we're very diversified. If you don't like something, you will find something you do like. But the Kennedy is our biggest display, and we have the largest collection in the world.
Wow.
And Kennedy is the largest, how should I say, that's number one that people like. And then Gangster goes over real well. And the Frontierland is growing roots. And I must say, Donnelly's Auction, because of the old West Town and all that their stuff, I've acquired a lot of artifacts for Frontierland through Donnelly's Auctions.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Wayne, for joining us. We'll be talking to you again very shortly.
Yep.
And thanks for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour here on AM 560.
The Donnelly Auctions Hour continues now on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back again to the Donnelly Auctions Hour. I'm Mike Donnelly here with my brother Randy Donnelly, and joining us now is Shauna Donnelly, head of our real estate division.
Hey, Shauna, I'm so happy you're back. You haven't been with us for a while. I mean, you've been so busy, but I wanted you to come on today to remind everybody that, they know us as Donnelly Auctions, but they forget that we actually help with a full-service real estate besides auctions, which is what you lead up the Donnelly Group. Can you remind everybody about what we do?
Yes, absolutely. Well, as some of you know and some of you don't, I am Shauna Donnelly. I'm a real estate broker with At Properties Christie's International Realty. We are based in Chicago. That's where our company was founded. We have offices all over the country. So whether you are here in Illinois or anywhere else in the country, give us a call because we can always get you to the right people. But like you were saying, we don't just auction property. In fact, we rarely do that because after sitting down with clients and assessing their needs, typically it ends up being the best route to go to list their property for sale.
Well, and Shauna, people are calling us all the time because somebody passes away in the family and maybe they're out of state and they need to liquidate the contents fast. And that's how we get so many calls with all these big collections of antiques in the homes and everything. And they're so often just surprised, wait, you can sell the real estate for us too? So, again, explain the process in that.
Exactly. So, we are very well versed dealing with estates or even as is sales because not everything is an estate when someone calls us and decides to move, obviously. But one of the biggest things that I always want to tell people is that before you decide to list a home by owner or before you sell it to a friend or a neighbor, which we see that happens quite often as well, you do want to sit down and meet with a realtor and decide what your plan is. What I'd like to do is have an introductory meeting. We discuss the process and the pros and cons of how to sell your home, not just fix everything, new paint, do this, do that, and really make it show worthy because most often a buyer is going to come in and change the house around anyway. They're going to come in and want to put on their own personal touches or do a remodel. So that's one of the bigger things because of the common misconception that you can't just sell a house as is. I'm working with a client right now where the timing is very important. We're putting together the process right now to figure out, okay, what do we need to do? When do we want to list? And what is the process to get to the point for a successful closing at the right time period too? Because she will be moving out of state, so we need the closing to coincide with her new purchase. So there are a lot of steps, and that's why it's always so important to at least meet with a realtor to let everybody be on the same page.
Wow. Good information, Shauna. And the real estate market is strong right now. We've just got about a minute left.
That it is, absolutely. We are entering into the busy season with the first day of summer this week. Everybody is trying to buy and sell, and people are making lots of real estate moves. The investor market is still very strong. I just met with an investor yesterday, and they will be investing in downtown Chicago, but they do live in the suburbs. So we do armchair investments also. I can refer people to other states for other investments, but all in all, it is very strong.
And tell us how to contact you, Shauna.
Well, first thing to do would be to go to our website, which is DonnellyAuctions.com. Click on the real estate tab. You can email me. You can click to chat with me. And my cell phone number is right up there. So it's best to send me a text or a call.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Shauna Donnelly. So we'll be back in...
that wraps up another episode of Donnelly Auctions.
Next week, yeah.
Thanks for listening. And until next time, I'm Mike.
And I'm Randy Donnelly, and we'll see you at the auction.
Thanks for listening to the Donnelly Auctions Hour on AM 560, The Answer. Check out all the latest information on upcoming auctions and collectibles at DonnellyAuctions.com. And while you're there, you can contact someone about buying or selling your collectibles or estates. That's DonnellyAuctions.com.